8 tonight. And topic number 8 is another big one. We're sticking to F1. Hey, if you're new here, give us a follow, give us a subscribe, give us a like here. We're on a mission to 1,000 subs, and we need you to hit that sub button and ring that bell so you can get all this great F1 content fed right to your page. But the big story here from the Turkish Grand Prix and for Alfa Romeo is that Antonio Giovinazzi refused team orders in the middle of the race. The team got on the radio and said, you know, Antonio, we want you to let Kimi by. He's about 1.5 seconds faster than you. We think if you let him by, we're gonna go ahead and score some points. Antonio, with radio silence back, does not let him pass at all. Then like a lap later, I believe, they get on the radio again. He stays with the radio silence, never lets his teammate by, and in the end, it cost Alfa Romeo a point, cost Kimi Raikkonen a point, and this was a big deal for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, no question. When you're Alfa Romeo, you know, you're not Mercedes, you're not Red Bull, you're not McLaren. You know, these points are so important to you. And then, you know, the fact that Gio just kind of didn't even listen to the radio comms, it's just bad form by him, you know. And I think it also shows you, you know, when guys like Bottas or some drivers who are incredibly skilled drivers who are just good teammates, you know, Alonso's been a good teammate to some of the guys he's driven with too, even though incredibly talented and can win races too. But they're showing sacrifice by allowing their teammates to pass them. And you see drivers who aren't as good as those guys not doing that. So it's kind of like, you know, what are you doing here? Look at what these guys are doing. So, you know, Esteban Ocon held off Gio by, I think it was like 0.7 seconds in this race. And that was the difference between them earning a point, not earning a point. So, you know, to just completely ignore what your team is telling you to do on a team that's, you know, just kind of fighting to kind of stay relevant. You know, those teams, and, you know, you watch Drive to Survive, and it's more about the teams that are kind of just trying to get into the top 10 than it is about the top 2 teams. But they're the ones that are just fighting for every point that counts, you know, throughout the season. And then you see something like this happen, and you're like, you know, this matters. This is so important to our team. And then we don't get that point because you didn't want to listen to us. You didn't want to be a team player. And that's that. You got to think that, you know, I know he's a talented driver, but you got to think the team's like, you know, maybe this is going to affect the next time your contract is up. You know, maybe this is something that we have to think about the next time, you know, maybe we're going to replace you. So, you know, if you're Gio, you got to start listening to your team, or else you're going to be out of there in no time flat.
That's the exact point right now. And you bring it up right now is he's in a contract negotiation currently to even come back for the 2022 season. And right now, that's just a bad look, honestly, when you do and pull something like that and refuse team orders. But I personally think that he is in such a fight to keep his Formula One seat that he felt like he had to show good form there and keep his teammate at bay and maybe go and try to score that point himself. And he just couldn't do it. The team had all the information of the laps that he was pulling and the laps that Kimi Raikkonen were pulling right behind him. And they had all the info that said, hey, Kimi Raikkonen is 1.5 seconds faster. You've got to let him through. He's going to be able to put up amazing pace. Go ahead and pass Esteban Ocon, who, by the way, did a 0-stop race, by the way. A 0-stop race was one of the first times going back, I believe, 20-something years that it's been done in Formula One. Was completely legal because it was a wet race, so he did not have to change his tires and make a pit stop. But it's the first time it's been done in a long time in Formula One. But they knew that it really wasn't going to pay off if Gio had let Kimi Raikkonen through. Kimi Raikkonen had the pace to get in the top 10 and steal that point from Alpine and Esteban Ocon. But Giovinazzi held him back. There was some footage at one point where both drivers, Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen, approached Daniel Ricciardo, who was struggling this week in the McLaren, and they approach him at high speed in Sector 3, and they both go by him at blazing speed. But Kimi Raikkonen is all over Antonio Giovinazzi and Daniel Ricciardo, passes them both. If Kimi gets by Antonio, I think with the pace that he had left on those tires, he definitely goes on to score a point, which, like you said, is huge for these Formula One teams, especially the ones that are at the back of the grid,
right,
fighting for this cash that's left over in the end from all of the big teams. So this was huge for the team, a complete fail for Antonio Giovinazzi, a complete fail for the team. The team was quick to come out and complain about it publicly as well. So that's even more pressure now put on Antonio Giovinazzi, that he has now got to really have a great season to finish here over these last 5 or 6 Grand Prix. But I really do think it's over that contract negotiation and over his seat. He is fighting to keep his seat in Formula One. There's been a lot of rumors over that seat getting filled. And guess what? He's really not been in any of those rumors. So he's really trying to fight for his life now in Formula One. And I don't doubt it, but he has got to really be calculated in the moves he make. I think at that point, if I knew I didn't have the pace in that race, I'm going to go with team orders and keep my team happy, which is also going to give me more of a chance to possibly renegotiate and keep my seat in Formula One. But he just didn't do it. But other quick news for Alfa Romeo that came out this week was the partnership that Kudo had brought it up earlier. Producer Ben had brought it up with Andretti Motorsport, and Andretti Racing has now bought in Alfa Romeo Formula One. So that's some good news going forward for Alfa Romeo with getting some additional funding for the team. But that also means additional funding to buy additional drivers. So, you know, that could be also bad news for the guy that we're talking about with Giovinazzi. So I think, yeah, big news for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and you got to remember the guy who just won this race, Bottas, is going to be with Alfa Romeo. And then, you know, he's not going to want to play second fiddle to Gio. So, if he had done a better job being a better teammate, Bottas might have said, hey, maybe that's a guy I want to race with. Because they just signed Bottas to a big deal. So they're going to probably do what he wants a little bit here. They're at least going to listen to what he has to say. So if he sees this and says, you know, if I was on the track with that driver and, you know, I just won this race, but if I was with him and he wasn't helping me pass, I don't want to be racing with this guy. So dump him and get somebody else. You got this extra money, go get somebody else. You make a good point
Dump
about
him.
You know,
love it.
Dump him. Let him walk, you know? And that's true. I mean, it's almost like in the NBA when you sign a new free agent and then they want somebody else to play with it, come with them. If he doesn't like the guy that's on the team, you know, he can certainly weigh in on that decision. So I don't think Gio helped himself. I think he was trying to do a little too much instead of just trying to, you know, be a good driver and let the team help him out there because they have all the information at their fingertips, unlike him who's in the car. So certainly not a great weekend for Gio there. And that is going to do it for topic number 8. Of course, we're going to move on to